Welcome to episode 51 of Uncaged Sports Talk. Here on this episode, we're going to talk a little training camp. They're not truly training camp per se, but the top stories as training camp in the NFL begins, as we head towards the start of the NFL season. The top storylines we're going to want to follow throughout the entire NFL season, throughout the training camp and the NFL season. That is what we're going to get into today on this episode. First, I wanted to give you all a little factoid that this Olympics, starting this week, starting tomorrow actually, is the first ever Olympics with an equal amount of men and women competing in it. It's the first ever Olympics with an equal amount of men and women competing. That is insane. That's hats off to all the countries doing that. Finally, that's crazy. When I saw that, I was like, huh? That was kind of just odd just to see. Almost painful to hear. As painful as an ingrown toenail. I had to throw that in there. I had an ingrown toenail. I had a procedure done. It doesn't hurt now, really hurt now at all. But I had a procedure done on Tuesday. I wanted to throw that in there. So I'm a little banged up, but we're working through it. We're working through it as we work towards episode 53 next week. We're gonna double up on an episode this week, potentially on Sunday. Do like a Phillies pregame. Do a Phillies pregame episode. Talk about the Phillies. Talk about who I want the Phillies to get, and all that. But as we spiral towards, not spiral per se, as we barrel towards episode 53, the 1-year anniversary, we also, with training camp beginning for every team today, we also barrel towards the beginning of the 2024 NFL season. This is the last week of this year without football. This is the last without NFL football or college football. This is the last week until after the Super Bowl, until no football. With no football. So, football begins next week with the Hall of Fame game. We have football next week. But before we get into that, if you want to barrel towards something, I recommend getting a car. You know where to get a car from? You can go visit my friend Dana Man Stanley at Sheridan Nissan, where they'll hook you up with a new car. Just let them know Luke Zarenka and Uncaged Sports Talk sent you. I also wanted to give a shout out while I'm doing an ad, while I'm giving a shout out ad-wise, to Scrubba Steve. My friend Steve Hurd, who I've had on here, he started up his own business. If you need any cleaning services done, go visit him. If you need your bathroom cleaned, if you need your house cleaned at all, give him a call. You can find him on Facebook, Steve Hurd. He's made posts about it. Steve Hurd's cleaning service, I think, is like the cleaning page for it. But if you need any cleaning services done in your house, give him a call. Without further ado, though, we're going to clean up this episode. Actually, speaking of cleaning, I need a clean haircut and beard, but we'll have that for episode 53 because I'm going to the barber next Monday, hopefully, before my trip to Massachusetts. But let's barrel and let's clean up on the way through this. That did not come off how I wanted it to, but let's barrel through this episode. In this episode, it's been short a lot of the summer for the most part because there's not as much to talk about. But in this episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 storylines for the 2024-2025 NFL season. Coming in at number 5, I think this is going to turn into a storyline potentially. There's already hints of it. The Niners having a Super Bowl hangover. Now, will there be one? Who knows? But history says there's likely to be one teams that go to the Super Bowl, unless you're the Chiefs or Patriots. Usually don't go back. And by Super Bowl hangover, I don't mean miss the playoffs or anything, but I just mean just not be close to as good as last year. Might be like a second round exit. There's already signs. Dre Greenlaw tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, maybe an Achilles actually. Forget which one. I'll double check that. But you have Trent Williams holding out over contract issues. Niners usually get their contracts done. But Trent Williams holding out over contract issues. Dre Greenlaw on the pup list. Brandon Ayuk is showing up to training camp, but he's injured too. Tolono Halafungo is hurt. He's on the pup list to start training camp. They have two of their top players need a contract. Dre Greenlaw, a top 76 player from last year in the NFL, is gonna miss the beginning of the season. Trying to see what the injury was, and I forget exactly. But the Niners are showing signs already of dysfunction. They fired their defensive coordinator after a Super Bowl appearance. Not dysfunction, actually. Not, I wouldn't say dysfunction, but they're showing signs of having some sort of a hangover and not making it back to the Super Bowl. And for Greenlaw, it wasn't Achilles, so he could maybe come back. He hopes to be ready for week 1, but still, coming off an Achilles injury might not play the same this year. There's some concerns for the Niners. Some concerns if I'm a Niners fan over there in the Bay Area. Coming in at number 4 is the dysfunctional Cowboys are at it again. They're at it again. They have CeeDee Lamb, who's officially become a holdout. He did not show up to training camp today. Dak Prescott, who wants more money. You have Micah Parsons, who's going to want a contract. You got to pay all 3 of those guys all at once. And I'll tell you something. They don't have Howie Roseman walking in that building anytime soon to help with their contracts. I wanted to throw a jab like that, but yeah, CeeDee Lamb wants a contract. They waited till the worst possible scenario. Justin Jefferson already got his money. Micah Parsons hasn't got his money yet, but CD is going to want 35. So the Cowboys are going to have to not overpay because he's a top 3 receiver. Or top 5 receiver for sure. Top 3, top 5. But they're going to have to pay $30+ million, maybe 35 for CeeDee Lamb. Micah Parsons is going to get top pass rusher money, maybe be the highest paid pass rusher of all time. And Dak Prescott wants to be the highest paid QB in the NFL. He wants $60 million. He wants to be the first $60 million QB. There's some dysfunction going on over there. They have, like I said, CD holding out. They lost Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith hasn't been the same. He's been often injured. But Tyron Smith this offseason, they lost him. So they have a rookie starting at left tackle. Who knows if a rookie's going to pan out? Sure, the Cowboys usually have rookies pan out on the O-line for sure. But we don't know. You have Trayvon Diggs coming off an injury. Who knows if he's going to be the same? You lost your center. You have a new center starting. You have 2 new offensive linemen. Trayvon Diggs coming off an injury. CeeDee Lamb holding out. Micah Parsons wants money. Like, get your shit together, Dallas. Actually, don't. Don't get your shit together. It's better for the entire NFL, for every fan base. Don't get your shit together. It's more entertaining. I don't know if they ever will get their shit together with Jerry Jones at owner. Coming in at number 3, something I'm most excited for heading into this NFL season, The Eagles' new additions. Now, one of them has a hamstring injury currently, Cooper DeJean. DeJean, that's going to slow him down his chances of getting on field for week 1. But you still have Isaiah Rodgers, who's coming back from a suspension. You still have Keely Ringo, who I'm very excited to see. He's likely going to start opposite of Darius Slay, and then you're going to have Rodgers in the slot. Isaiah Rodgers, I've heard, has looked good. Keely Ringo on the outside. Keely looked good in the chances he got last year. You got Quinyon Mitchell. You got Cooper DeJean, he'll have. You got Avonte Maddox, who's going to back up Isaiah Rodgers. You got some pieces. You got Eli Rick still. You got some pieces now to work with. You got CJ GJ back. The big fish from the Big Apple, Saquon Barkley at running back. You got him. You've made some good additions. Parrish Campbell, wide receiver, maybe wide receiver 3. Who knows? I'd love to see it somehow become Burton Covey, but we'll see with that. And if all fails, if all those additions fail, and Hurts fails, you got something to start a little bit of a QB controversy if Hurts struggles, which is good for content. Kenny Two Gloves. So if there's any struggles from Hurts, there's some good content out of that, especially in Philly. Philly loves its backup QBs. Randall Cunningham was a backup for Ron Jaworski at one point. Mike Vick was a backup for Donovan McNabb at one point. Nick Foles was a backup for Mike Vick. People loved him, wanted him to start before that. Jeff Garcia. Nick Foles again for Carson Wentz, coming in and winning a Super Bowl, obviously. The following year, Nick Foles again. And then Jalen Hurts in 2020. Philly loves itself a good QB. A good backup QB. Philly loves itself a good QB controversy. So, if all fails, I got some controversy for this podcast. I like the additions, though. Seriously, though. Good additions in the secondary. Bryce Huff, didn't mention him yet. I am, though, worried about that defensive line. You lost Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick might not even play, but I'm just still worried about that offensive line. Besides Sweat disappears after half a season, I don't know where the sacks are going to come from. I think that's going to be the ultimate Eagles downfall. The QBs are going to have too much time in the pocket. No matter how good the corners are, if that QB has all day to throw, which I think they might this season, you're in trouble defensively. We need help on that D-line. Now, there are 2 guys who are a question mark, who could pop. If they pop, I'm excited about the Eagles' chances this year. Those guys are Bryce Huff. If Bryce Huff pops and has a huge season on the edge, has a breakout season, I'm excited about the Eagles' chances. Then the other guy is Nolan Smith. If Nolan Smith shows out and has a breakout season, I'm excited about where the Eagles are headed this season. I think D-line's the biggest weakness on this team. We'll get back into the Eagles shortly. Coming in at number 2 on my list for the top storylines and things I'm most excited for this season. This will be interesting to follow. Interesting storyline, some good content throughout the season. The bright lights shining on New York. New York. New York. I don't know if I'm doing it right. The bright lights are going to be shining on New York. Trying to channel my inner Frank Sinatra. New York. No, I can't. I'm sorry for ruining all your guys' eardrums trying to do a little bit of singing, like kind of. New York. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. But the bright lights are going to be shining on the Jets. Aaron Rodgers Anytime Aaron Rodgers is healthy, even when he's not healthy, you almost want to have your eyes on what's going on whatever team he's on. That man is. I got into him. I think last season in a previous episode. That man is wacko, wacko. He's lost his mind. And then you have Hassan Reddick, who they traded a third-round pick for, a conditional second. Second looks like it's not going to matter. But you have Hassan Reddick, who you traded a third-round pick for, and you don't even sign him? What? What kind of shit is that? You don't even sign him, and now he's holding out? He might not even start the season with you guys. Like, what are you doing, New York? You trade a third-round pick for him, and he holds out. That's some typical New York Jets. That's typical Jets. That's typical Jets dysfunction. Trading a third-round pick for a player, and he holds out on you. Like, what? Get your shit together. Howie, another W for Howie, getting rid of someone who he knew was going to be a problem. A W there for Howie. Then, before I get into number one, for the biggest storylines and things I'm most excited for this season, I'm going to go over two honorable mentions. First, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic that online sports betting, Bet Rivers, is live in Delaware for football season. I don't have to go over to the News Journal place near my house anymore. I can just place bets on my phone. Place a bet on my phone. Set up a parlay on my phone, which is very much more convenient. I might lose more money. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding because I'm gonna be. People know why. I'm not gonna bet as much. But the other honorable mention, as you can see on there, wanted to announce this on here for people that don't know yet. I will be joining and running the board and producing for them during University of Maryland sporting events and during other things, during shows potentially. For 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore, I took a job 2 weeks ago, or I took it last Monday. I accepted it. I will be working in the field of sports media, officially getting paid to work in the field of sports media and I will officially have my foot in the door of the sports media world. So I am ecstatic about that as well. It's a huge opportunity for me to be able to go out there and prove myself. This podcast has helped, and I will continue this podcast. It is good to get practice. It's good to just get my name out there. It's an online portfolio too. But being able to put working at a sports radio station, like officially working at a sports radio station on my resume, will be huge. Will help me leaps and bounds. And coming in at number one for the things I'm most intrigued for this season, back to the Eagles. Will the Eagles bounce back after the collapse they had last season? Or will they spiral? If they spiral, and by spiral, I mean like 1-3 to start the season, or 2-2, and then you just go worse after the bye. If they start 1-3, or somehow 0-4, Nick Sirianni is gone. There's so much that can happen. I think they're going to be a 12-5 team. I think 12-5. I don't think the D-line is good enough unless Nolan Smith or Bryce Huff have a breakout season. I don't think the D-line is good enough. So I think they're going to be like 12-5 second round exit. I think the offense is going to be good enough. I'm not worried about Sirianni. I'm not worried about Hurts. I think Hurts is going to have a bounce back season. It's that D-line. I think when it comes down to it, and you're playing a top team, I'm worried that Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott are going to have way too much time in that pocket. and just going to pick you apart. That's my biggest worry when it comes down to it. Or Jared Goff is going to have way too much time in the pocket and just pick you apart. Someone like that, or Stafford. That's my biggest fear heading into this season. I think they're going to be 12-5 and a second round exit. I think they will bounce back, but it will be interesting to see if they spiral as well. They could bounce back, but they could spiral as well. And if they spiral, buckle up because it's going to get interesting quick. And I think we will find out week 1 what direction that's likely to head to bounce back or the spiral. That game in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers, if they go out and win that football game, all concerns, depending on how they win, all concerns lifted for the most part. They go out and lose, depending on how they lose, you have 9 days before your next football game. Every question resurfaces. Every question from this offseason resurfaces if you go out and lose that football game week 1 against the Packers. And then you have a dark cloud looming over you before week 2 at home against the Vikings. You lose that, or no, the Falcons. I said the Vikings because Kirk Cousins week. But you lose that, you're in deep shit. Gonna be interesting. As of now, I'm saying 12-5, but second round exit. We will see, though, when it comes to it. That'll do it, though, for this episode of Uncaged Sports Talk. Thank you for tuning into episode 51. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on all of our platforms. It is greatly appreciated. Tune in later this week, most likely on Sunday, for episode 52 of Uncaged Sports Talk as we barrel towards the 1-year anniversary of Uncaged Sports Talk.